and welcome back to another review of today's episode of Insecure, Season 4, Episode 5. So, a lot happened this episode. I know we knew there was a fight coming, but I don't think that we expected it to end up this way. There were a lot of things, a lot of holes that were plugged, a lot of questions that were answered, but more have popped up in its place. I feel like it resolved some stuff, but also made some worse damage. So let's just jump straight into it. So the episode opens with Issa at 3 in the morning, really sad in her apartment because she can't sleep. And that's normal. If you have a big event or something coming up that makes you really nervous, sleeping the night before is really difficult. And she ends up hitting up Nathan on IG because she sees that he's online, and he responds back with the quickness. And he can't sleep either. He says, "You want to call?" So she ends up calling him, and they have an actual phone call, which, lucky to even have someone to talk to you on the phone. I'm a text kind of girl, so if I even like a person enough to want to talk on the phone with them, you are special. And this confirms my question of last week last episode where I was like, do they live together? They confirmed that Nathan and Andrew are still roommates. So, but we come to find out the scene that we started with on the very first episode of the season with Issa saying she don't fuck with Molly no more. She's actually talking to Nathan. I'm trying to remember who I watched that predicted that she was going to be on the phone with Nathan. But I can't remember who it was. I feel like it was another YouTube review I was watching. But, yeah, so that it happens. And then it cuts to Molly getting ready for the block party with Andrew. You know, she's venting about how Issa didn't come to her party and how she doesn't really want to go to the block party. So Andrew's like, cool, let's not go. And she's like, of course I have to go. She's my best friend. So that's already setting the tone of being like, that obligation of feeling like you have to go, but at the same time you don't want to, which I'm personally the person that would be like, just stay home. If you feel away, you don't think you want to be 100% supportive, and you're going to be weird, just stay home. Don't come. I don't want your energy there. And if I was in Molly's shoes, I would just stay home because I know that I wouldn't be able to fake it all day, and it's not worth it. And we're going to find out why it's worth it. Not worth it. Which Andrew calls her out, you know, being like, listen, she's your best friend. You're saying she's your best friend, let's just go. And he's like, put on the jumpsuit. We both know you're going to wear it, which I thought was funny. She corrects him and is like, it's a pantsuit, Andrew. It's a jumpsuit. But she does actually wear a lot of jumpsuits on this show, so I thought that was kind of cute that he called that out. So then it cuts to Issa at the event, prepping, talking to people, giving last-minute directions. She's nervous that there's no one there just yet, but they've only been open for 20 minutes, and that's what happens when you throw an event. Especially of that size of a music festival, if it's an all-day thing, people usually don't show up until closer to when the act they want to see is going on. But it's your first time, so of course you're worried about numbers. She spots Condola, and Condola's really standoffish, she thanks her for providing the interns. So that's a key detail, because I was wondering that, right? I said this for the last episode of, if she isn't going to go, she should have at least put some people in her place, which I guess that is what she ended up doing, where she hired her interns and her assistants and stuff to help her. And I forgot to mention it, too, in the last episode, but it was something that came across. Do y'all think that she had anything to do with Schoolboy Q canceling? And I ask that simply because when Issa called up Molly complaining about Schoolboy Q dropping out, and Molly was grilling her and being a dick about it, but her questions were valid. Did you pay the artist? Did you sign a contract? What would you have done to make it have voided the contract? So Issa said, the money was straight. The next paycheck was due to be released next week. So if you know you've booked this artist, you've paid this artist, you've already fulfilled what they need, why would they randomly pull out? Especially if Condola is ghosting you, and let's be honest, we know that a lot of what's happening with the block party has to do with Condola's contacts. And personally, I thought this part was really corny, and I didn't think that Condola's reasoning was valid. So basically, Issa asked her what's up because she hadn't heard from her. She didn't think she was gonna show up. Condola reveals like, "Oh, me and Lawrence, did Lawrence tell you?" Which, if you have to ask, you should already know that there's something off with the conversation. And Issa goes, "No, told me what?" And she goes, that me and Lawrence broke up." So again, this goes back to my last thing of the last video. If you are being professional, you're dating this girl's ex-boyfriend, which she has absolutely no control over, didn't even know it was happening, and you thought it was appropriate to just ghost her because you broke up with your ex-boyfriend. And we'll come to find out, with her ex-boyfriend, excuse me, we'll find out why that in particular is a issue, because I'm sure it's related to either her still having feelings for her ex, or Lawrence having feelings for Issa, or a combination of the two. She apologized, but I personally didn't think her apology was sufficient. You left her hanging to throw an entire event, and Issa did do a good job of pulling it together, but that's terrifying. And to me, that set a bad example, because at the end of the day, the event wasn't about your personal issues. It was about what the overall goal was, which is to reach out to the community. And this is the part too, because other people I keep seeing it come up a lot. They're like, Issa uses people, Issa uses people, Issa uses people. But I feel like if we were to do a reverse and Molly was going through other people, we wouldn't call it using, we'd call it networking. And specifically because Issa works in nonprofit, where she literally has to rely on the network of people that she knows. I don't think she's using people. I think she's using the network that she has. Condola just so happened to be that person who also was dating her ex-boyfriend. She had no control over that. And that plays a role later when it comes up again. So she sees, they're like, oh, there's some people over there taking pictures by the step and repeat. She looks up, she sees it's Kelly. They're over there with Derek and Tiffany. They chat, they catch up. Kelly, in her sideways way, while insulting her at the same time, congratulates her on the event and how great it looks, along with Tiffany and Derek. Which they're taking pictures, and the kids are like, ew, they're old. And he's like, shut the fuck up. And then he's like, I'm sorry, I'm just tired. I haven't been sleeping. Which is hilarious because they have a new baby, so of course you're on edge. Kelly then goes into this weird thing. She starts with a British accent, and they're very confused. And she's like, I'm dating this guy. He thinks I'm British, so I have to fake this accent. Who we then find out is actually this guy named Darnell, who was actually the rapper Amine. I'm guessing a lot of people don't know that, because I keep seeing everybody being like, who's the really hot guy playing her boyfriend? His name's Amine. He makes great music. And it's spelled A-M-I-N-E. Not anime, Amine. Switch the M and the N. Okay? Which was weird, because then for a second Issa started doing a British accent, which she then clicks, like, it stops. It was very much like, y'all ever seen Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? And they had company over, who I think a family was visiting them that was British, and Uncle Phil had this weird thing where people who had accents, he'd copy their accents. So even though Jeffrey lived in a house who had an English accent, for some reason Uncle Phil, when they had those guests over, he couldn't stop himself. That's what that reminded me of. So as they're all catching up with everybody, Issa asks, did Condola tell you that Lawrence and her broke up? And she's like, no, Condola didn't tell me anything. Derek also discloses that Lawrence didn't tell him that they broke up, especially since he likes to overshare. So this is going to come back and be an issue later on. And this is, again, proves to me why I feel like Issa is not in love with Lawrence still, because she didn't have a reaction of being like, oh, that's weird, or why'd they break up, or she didn't have a hopeful look on her face like, oh, he's going to come back to me. It was just like, oh, okay, I'm sorry, because that's awkward as hell. But also because you ghosted me, so I don't really know. And with her being like, oh, Lawrence didn't tell you, that to me tells me that Condola assumed that her and Lawrence are in constant communication, which is not the case at all. The time that she saw them interacting was by chance, not because they sought each other out. And the last time we know of that, Lawrence has purposefully called Issa was when he was telling her to back off when he was dating Condola. Other than that, they don't have interactions. They see each other. I think the last time her and Lawrence had an interaction, I'm not sure which came first, which was her birthday or was it the baby shower, but those are the last two interactions that we saw Lawrence and her and Issa having. So I feel like she just looked dumb. I feel like Condola just looked dumb. So then we cut to the boys playing in the virtual reality. So we see Derek, Andrew, and I feel like Darnell was also participating and maybe with a friend. And they're all having fun. Tiffany has a drink in each hand and lets the girls know that she's given up on breastfeeding. Which Kelly actually looks a little like concerned to ask her if she's okay, because it's actually the second time Tiffany in this episode has made a weird comment about being a new mother, which I'm assuming that she's probably suffering from postpartum, because earlier she made a comment about just wanting to leave the baby in the supermarket. I was like, oh, I love her, I just don't like her all the time, which I feel like is a real relatable feeling. You can love your kids, but you don't have to like them all the time. They still take away from you. They still take a lot of energy. Being one person and having to share yourself constantly is an exhausting task, especially when at a stage of a newborn where they can't communicate. So you have to give your time, your energy, and your body to feed your baby. But she says, I'm fine. Which maybe we'll delve into that a little bit later. We do still have 5 more episodes of the season, but I thought it was good that they're touching on it. Which then comes in Issa's brother Amal, which we see them like have their banter where he's like doesn't speak to her and he's like, I saw you, and she's like, well, I heard your shirt first. Your shirt spoke to me first. Which it's never been established why they have beef. It's just, I guess, on site every time they see each other, they're just dicks to one another. This is when Molly comes in. Issa's side hugs Molly because they're both awkward because they haven't, hashed this out, so they're just being fake. And Issa makes a comment like, I'm actually shocked that you came. And Molly's like, why wouldn't I? You're my best friend. But it's like, you keep saying that, but you guys don't act like best friends, so it comes off insincere, And then, Amal tries to then out Kelly for not having a real accent and starts asking her questions about where she's from. And this chick says, I'm from the South Central of... I forgot what the town was that she named in there. And then he's like, what do you think about Brexit? She's like, Brexit is boring. Forgive my accent, it's terrible. And then she's like, enough about me. What about your government? And he's like, there's 2 branches, which we then discover that Darnell is dumb as shit. He says there's presidential and the Bank of America. So Amal and Kelly proceed to laugh, like making jokes at one another, but also at his expense. But it was like, okay, Kelly's got nothing to worry about. He's stupid. So this accent thing will just be fine. It then cuts to Derek getting a phone call from the babysitter. The baby is inconsolable. She is screaming. She is crying. Peppa Pig ain't it. So he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna go home. We're on parent duty. He's like, Tiffany, we should go. The baby's upset. Tiffany's like, no, can I just stay here? Can you just go? And he surprisingly is just like, okay, I'm gonna take off. She's like, all right, Kelly's gonna give me a ride home. I'll see you later. Which I thought was good. As annoying as they are as a couple, I thought that was nice that Derek wasn't trying to coax her and make her feel bad. And I'm sure, like someone else pointed out, like, them living together, if her friends can peep that she's a little off right now, I'm sure that Derek has noticed the behavior is a bit peculiar too, so probably he recognized that she just needed the break. If we're lucky. That's it for that section. So then it cuts to Molly and Andrew are sitting down enjoying the block party from afar, just having a conversation. And Molly is commending Issa on her hard work, but to be honest with you, she looks more shocked that Issa pulled it off than proud of her. And Andrew actually, reminds her like an event like this is very hard to do, especially since this is her first time doing it and it's very time consuming. He was like, he reminds Molly like, Issa's not ignoring you or trying to like give you a hard time. She's just busy. She's working a lot. And Molly's like, yeah, you're right. And Andrew even points out, was like, remember when you were ghosting me for work? And luckily Molly laughs at this and doesn't take this personally, because we know old Molly would have gotten her feelings. But it was like, okay, maybe she's connecting the dots. This like isn't gonna end the way we think it will. It don't. It don't though. Andrew calls out Molly's hypocrisy. Oh, right. So then it cuts to Trina, who is at the event with her son, who was like, y'all tap dancing for white people? Because I guess Issa waved at some random white dude, and she was like, well, he's the Spotify guy. And Trina's like, no, that girl. And then points, and there's literally a black girl on stage tap dancing. And unfortunately, since it's early, still majority of the crowd is white. Trina got to make an appearance, She did say she was going to be there. So then we hear Nathan's voice out of nowhere. He pulls up, greets Issa. They chat a bit. She's like feels bad, like complaining about stuff that's happening, and Nathan like stops her and reminds her like, listen, we were at Coachella last year when you were talking about this just being an idea. Like, look how far you've come. This is a real thing that you've really pulled off. And I think Andrew and Nathan's characters have been doing a good job of supplementing what Issa and Molly should be doing for each other. But say what you want, you can't say that Nathan isn't a positive reinforcement. And don't forget that he was the first person that she told about wanting to do it to. Because even when she told the rest of her squad, they all laughed at her like it was a stupid idea. And Nathan really rode for her, like, really was like, I think it can be done. You need to change the name. The name is stupid, but I like the concept. So we find out Vince Staples is supposed to be her main artist. And she's freaking out because he's not there. Sorry, I did that backwards. And that's when Nathan's reminding her, like, relax. It's taken care of. You've worked really hard. Later on, while Issa is standing out, just watching the view, really, because of all the work she's done, Molly walks over to her, offering her some chicken wings as a peace offering, which what other better peace offering is there other than wings? And they're just chilling. It doesn't come to anything, though, because neither of them start the conversation. And then Issa's assistant comes over and tells her that Vince is here, so they have to get moving. Oh, yes. So Vince Staples arrives. She bumps into Thug Yoda, her old neighbor, who somehow managed to sneak backstage and claims that he knows a whole bunch of people back there. Bobby, their brothers, both named Bobby with a Y and Bobby with an I, and Bailey and these other people. And just like, he says, like, you made all of these people up, didn't you? So, also, I just want to point out, Andrea said at the beginning of the episode it was 75 degrees, and there was a man back there that had a long sleeve shirt on and a leather t-shirt on top. I was very confused. I know that Cali dresses different, and maybe it's not humid, but to me, he looked a little warm for the weather. I don't know if y'all also saw that. But anyway, they chat. She ends up meeting Vince Staples. He's really dope. And they end up outside. And they all end up dancing and doing the wobble, which Kelly ends up outing herself partially because Darnell's like, oh wow, I didn't even know this dance made it across the pond. But they're all killing it. Issa gets called on stage. Well, they're all dancing. It seems like Issa and Molly are having a moment because they actually just bust out laughing. They're dancing together, and you're thinking, okay, maybe things will turn out for the best. They'll have a conversation. And that dance gets interrupted when Issa gets called on stage. She tries to give a speech, and they're like, bring out Vince. So she's just like, you know what? It's fine. Bring him out. He does a fantastic job. And they end up outside. They're having a conversation post block party, and what's his name? Vince Staples' manager comes out, shakes hands with Andrew, Andrew introduces Molly to him as his girlfriend. He says Vince wants to say hi or whatever. And he's like, yeah, no problem, cool. So Molly, of course, is just like, oh, how, what? Oh, no, excuse me, I'm mixing it up. The manager thanks Andrew for the hookup, says it was a great idea to participate. We had a lot of fun. Thanks for, hooking us up. So he walks away. Molly's like, hook up with what? Andrew explains like, oh yeah, I helped Issa. I'm the one that got Vince Staples. So Molly, of course, immediately turns back into regular old mean ass Molly and is like, what do you mean you helped Issa? You know that we're not talking. And Andrew, of course, points out the obvious of, I thought she was your best friend. Why would it be a problem of me helping your best friend? So Molly at this point, she's heated. She's not trying to have a conversation. She spots Issa, walks right up to her. Like, bitch, why did you ask my man for help? I told you not to talk to him. And Issa's like, you said that you didn't want to be involved, and technically I didn't involve you. I spoke to Nathan. Nathan asked Andrew on my behalf. Andrew agreed, and boom. Molly still pressed, like, why did you do this? You weren't supposed to talk to him. I told you it was about setting boundaries. And Issa brings up a good point, was like, so you wanted me to just fail? Like, you knew I was days away from this event happening. My headliner called out. Condola has ghosted me. Did you really want to see me fall on my face? And this is where that networking thing comes up. She was like, Issa's like, I needed a favor. You didn't want to come through. Molly's like, yeah, but that's the problem. Your ass always needs a favor. And I get it. People are like, she's a user. But I also thought Issa was trying to do the legwork, to me at least, this season, since this whole inception of the block party, of doing the legwork on her own. Her meeting Condola was by chance, but again, that's networking. She didn't meet Condola, find out she was friends with Tiffany, or that she was dating Lawrence, then asked her for help. She met her in an environment of Condola doing work that was similar to what she wanted her event to be about, and connected with her. She just later on ended up dating Lawrence. She had no control over that. She had gone through the steps, booked a proper artist. She had no replacement. Her and Molly weren't connecting, and I get it, right? Because not saying that they shouldn't have had the conversation. I just don't think that she should have done it right then and there. Issa asked her, why are you doing this at the event? Andrew even interrupted them, was like, hey, I don't think this is the time for it. But I think Issa did what she was supposed to do. And to me, I don't feel like she necessarily, because some people are like, oh, she used Nathan to get to Andrew. To me, I feel like Nathan already knew that he was on Issa's bad side. So to me, I feel like he would have been like, you know what? If this makes her forgive me or slightly makes up for what I did, then I'll happily, like, ask Andrew. And I think maybe I see Issa doing it both ways. I see Issa being direct and being like, listen, I need a favor. Can you talk to Andrew for me? Which, again, is not sneaky. She said, don't involve Molly. They're roommates. She's using the connection she has with Nathan. If it wasn't from Issa, she would, knowing Nathan, Molly would have never met Andrew in the first place. So that's a whole nother conversation. But I also see another possibility of Issa just venting to Nathan about the whole situation, because don't forget, Nathan's the first person to hear this idea to begin with, when her friends were clowning her, that he would be like, okay, I'll see what I can do, and also reach out to Andrew. And again, Andrew's like, I'm just helping my girlfriend's best friend. I'm trying to be a good boyfriend. Logically, it would be like, sure, I'll help her. Yes, the two of them are at odds. No, I will not step in between it. This is a professional thing that could benefit me, and it could benefit Issa. Like, two birds, one stone. Molly's not trying to hear it. She's cussing her out. I do think Issa was out of pocket for making that comment about, like, you don't blame me if things go wrong with Andrew. Because A, that was fucked up to say that in front of a group of people. But it was also fucked up because Andrew was standing there. But, when you're in an argument, you're not thinking logically. You're just being nasty to each other because you want to win. And, it was ugly. They were saying some really harsh stuff to each other. I do agree with Issa, though, that Molly was just being negative. She was like, I set a boundary and you just ignoring it. And it's like, okay, but she's like, you're willing to sacrifice our friendship for a guy you've known for how long? Which, again, Andrew stepped in to help as well. So it was like, you're being mean. Your boyfriend has helped. His roommate has helped. Everyone else is like happy for me. What is the issue? And why do you have to do it here? And she's like, you're just miserable. You're always negative. And she's like, well, you have shit that you have to fix and you have to work on. And calling each other a hypocrite. I guess they get too loud. People are like, she's got a gun. Everyone runs off. And they all look really sad. Like they regret how they reacted. I also worry that this is going to come back to bite Molly in the ass with Andrew. Because he did apologize, because he was like sincerely didn't want to cause drama between the two of them. But I also feel like she also has had drama on and off since the beginning of their relationship, and then now he just watched her be petty in a public setting with her best friend. I don't feel like that's gonna end well. I don't know if Andrew will necessarily flat out break up with her, but I feel like it's probably gonna make him a little distant and probably side eye her a bit. Tiffany tells her it's gonna be okay. We're gonna solve it. Everything's gonna be fine. Her and Kelly leave. Nathan asks to stay, offers to stay with her. She turns him down. And people are like, to her, them that said that it was a sign that she used him. But I think if you're in a mood like that, you just argue with your best friend like, you thought you was having the greatest night of your life. You finally felt accomplished. You finally felt like you did something. You found something that you really like. The person that really opinion matters the most is your best friend just came in and shat over the whole thing. You ain't going to want to interact with people. You're not going to want to talk to them. And, of course, that 10% rain that they were talking about the whole episode, it just pours on Issa. You're just like, damn, Issa, I feel so bad. I just want you to have a win, and you can't ever seem to have a win. Yeah, but that's what happens when you don't communicate. Things blow up. People have reactions that they shouldn't. I think they both I think they were both wrong and they were both right at the same time. I think Issa did the best that she could with what she had because she was focused on making a successful event. But I felt like she had to know that asking Nathan to ask Andrew was going to come back to bite her in the ass, especially if her and Molly haven't patched things up, knowing how petty Molly is. And I also think Molly may have not necessarily made the boundary for a real reason. And if she did, I feel like she's more concerned with her relationship than her friendship. And she's trying to water that plant right now instead of her and Issa's. And I feel like they could have had a confrontation because I don't understand. Like, you had the whole thing of Andrew explaining it to you. You saw how the event turned out. It was successful. So what is the issue? What are you mad about, Molly? Why did you feel that was the need and the place to have that kind of reaction? It was just, they almost got into blows. Like they were really about to hit one another. And I feel like once you reach that point, you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. So screw Condola, because she's fake. We still haven't had Lawrence and Nathan in the same scene, so I'm sure that's gonna come back up. I hope that this doesn't become a thing between between Molly and Andrew now. We gotta figure out what's gonna happen with Tiffany because she possibly has postpartum. A mess. It's a mess, y'all. Anyway, though, thank you for watching. This was a really good episode, even though it really, really pulled on my heartstrings because it was like watching your friends fight. But I'd love to know what you guys thought. As always, leave me a comment and likes, and I love to read what you guys thought of the show. And I shall see you in the next one. Thank you.